I guess we'll fast forward back a little bit to present day and everything, because you've been here 16, 17 years?
16 years.
16 years. You had your first call for 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
How has, and you talked a little bit about earlier, but how has specifically your approach to campus ministry and approaching college students changed during your tenure here at the chapel? Like what, I guess more externally, like what changes have you noticed in the culture of the college campus and the students and the atmosphere? Because, I mean, you kind of, are a little bit removed, and so you're working and stuff like that, but you're getting to see these shifts in personality, and from all the kids that come through. What have you noticed in that regard?
Well, A&M doesn't change a whole lot.
Tradition, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Does not change a whole lot. But one thing I have noticed with students is I think students have a harder time connecting or relating to each other than when I first got here. And I say that just based on my observations of how easily, the group when I got here was really tight-knit. Mm-hmm. And it was a large group, and that continued for, I would say, at least a decade.
Okay.
And classes come and go, but
into 2012, you would say?
Yeah.
2013? Yeah.
The class of 2012, I guess it was really a super class, and they all
right.
Are.
They're all are.
But I think probably the advent of online technology.
Mm-hmm.
I think people, and not just
not just college students,
students, but all people. I think we've lost that ability, but willingness, maybe.
Okay.
To connect with other people intentionally.
Okay.
To put the devices down and just chat like we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
So getting people to connect and to be a part of something bigger than themselves, maybe.
Right.
I think I've seen a change in that.
Yeah, because there's certainly a radical individualism that comes through social media, because you're inherently very connected and you have all these followers that on the surface level it's like, I don't have 1,000 close friends. I have 1,000 Facebook friends, right. And probably a couple dozen that I regularly talk to on a weekly basis, and it's you're strangely both you're connected and you're disconnected in a sense, and it's strange how easy that shallow connection seems and how readily available it is at any given time, because I can reach to one of my 1,000 shallow Facebook friends. It's not like they're all shallow, but it's just the depth of the relationship isn't always there. Right. They're from high school. I haven't talked to them in 2 years. It's just like that. But I know that just via Messenger I can reach out to them at any time of the day. So I feel strangely close to them, or I see pictures that they post, and it's this strange closeness, even though they're wherever they are across the country at university somewhere else.
Right.
And then you come back into the physical world. I won't say the real world, because there's all this that goes on in that comment. But the in physical space, when we're gathering together, it's the phenomenon where it's we're sitting around the table at Bible study, but 12 of us are on our phones. It's we're here. Mm-hmm. And we're not. But even when we're on our phones, we're talking to each other via that way, and I'm
what's wrong with this picture?
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, not to play devil's advocate explicitly, but it's is there something wrong with that picture? Because on the you're not talking physically, and you can't see it, and there's maybe a lack of physical connection there, but there seems to be a depth of emotional connection. I mean, just personal experience in terms of I have friends that I still keep in touch with over the phone, or just through texting and stuff like that, online, where it's there's a radical depth of relationship there that the media can make extremely easy. But it's, again, if you put that foot forward and you're proactive and you're intentional with the conversations that you have, but it also makes it so much more easier to disconnect, because should I need this person, I can connect with them then, but you're much more likely to put that off as opposed to, I see you now, I know I'm not going to see you for a week, and I have no way of reaching you for this next week, so if I have something to say to you, I better get it done right here, right now. So it's interesting in that way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, that's the way it is, and so we deal with it.
Yeah. How have we been dealing with it? I know we've had brief conversations about the similar subject, but
I don't know if there's an easy answer. I don't think I've found a suitable way.
There's no foolproof solution.
To be really honest.
Pastors are starting to write books about it. We'll start reading them, see what they say. But
right.
I think it definitely just comes back to, Christ is what unites us in every way, and like when we can put down the phone and when we can like look at each other, I think there is a certain physical nature of Christ that you get in a physical space that's just difficult, like not impossible to communicate online.
Incarnation's all about it,
right? I mean, he's a physical God. He came in, like, lived, died, came back. Like he went through all that. So there's something very physical about Christ, and he is with us through his Spirit. And I wonder if it's like we complicate that with all these the mediums that we try to use, and they're helpful in getting the message out there. But it's like, I think if you're in a physical space with other people, like the easiest way to talk about Christ will just be to talk about Christ. You don't have to have all this elaborate stuff here and there and every which way. It's just like you sit down and you have a conversation, and it's been remarkable how difficult but how fulfilling it is to just sit down and have conversation with people.
Right.
This, especially like having gotten to sit with people who've been on the podcast before, it's like, how different is this from everyday life? This is still going online, this is still going on social media, and the media of podcasting is special in that you do kind of have a brief return to that long form conversation where you're just sitting through and it's uninterrupted talk and discussion. And I think that while in some ways it's slow because you have to figure out what to say, you can't carefully craft the text and then just send it, it's a lot less instantaneous in that way, but it's also quicker because I feel like, okay, we're both going to set apart this time to talk about this until we understand or are on like decent terms with one another and have an agreement, as opposed to like, if I text you could leave me on red for like a week, or 2 days or however long you want to, and you can put off the conversation. Things get so much easier to put down because now the conversation that would have been physical is now digital, and you can just as easily take the device and throw it in the trash. No one will, because it's $1,000 now to get an iPhone, but it's I don't know.
I also wonder about the depth of our conversations. Versus, being online or digital versus being in person. If that affects that as well. I think there's something to be said again for being in the same room and talking face to face. Because
I've had those discussions with people like over text. It's especially difficult over text because you're literally writing a book or something along those lines, or that's how
and they can't see your facial expressions, your intonation, all that's important.
And even
communication.
Even apart from like the emotional cues, just being able to sit down and articulate what you want. Like, because most people, I think, are better speakers than they are writers.
Right.
Even while I'm like really good at writing, it's like I'm a better talker than I am a writer. I can get to where I want to go quicker. I might not say it exactly perfectly the first time, but I know the correction to make as I hear it. Whereas like, okay, this is much more convenient, but I think we mistake convenience for efficiency, and speed with efficiency, because efficiency is not only speed but accuracy. And it's like, what are you missing here? It's like the body language, like you said, LOL, and the intonations, and
that's all part of communication. So
not that we can't have it, but it becomes again much more difficult, and you have to put that foot forward. It's much less natural online or with that, with the keyboard to reach that depth.
I think another thing about our communication online is that I think we're always trying to maybe put up a veneer, if you will, so that
veneer.
Everything in my life is great, kind of a thing. Whereas, when you're one-to-one relational kind of thing, it's, you maybe are open to being a little bit more vulnerable.
Yeah.
That way.
And I think it's just much more difficult to hide in person than it is online. And it's not that we don't front while we're sitting here, because you have this performance that you're doing every single day. It's like you want to look like you reasonably understand what's going on, and that you're to some degree competent. You can be humble in that. You don't have to be super prideful or cocky, but it's like you want to at least have the presence of like, I'm a functioning member of society right now. Yeah. Whereas like online, you can post the good stuff, and it's so easy to just take the bad stuff and delete it or crop it out or just not put it in.
Yeah.
And then as that gets like amplified over time, and suddenly like not only are you doing it, but everybody around you is doing it, those 1,000 shallow friends, it's like not only are you missing depth, but you're missing that integrity and that honesty there, because you're not getting the full story. I mean, I think mass media is almost the inverse of that, which is interesting. And we got to be careful when we talk about like social media versus mass media, because mass media is like kind of has the negativity bias in that way, where it's like the antithesis of the highlight reel. It's like, I'm going to show you what is absolutely horrible about the world right now. And so I don't know. And I think it's strange how much we're drawn to the highlight reel. A lot of people would prefer social media over mass media, because they just, even if it's fake, they want the positivity, as opposed to what in a lot of ways is the reality and is garbage. And I think that kind of is reflected in the way we approach worship as well, in terms of like, okay, we want the gospel and we want to talk about grace and how we're free and how we can do anything for the glory of God. And that's amazing, and that's the truth. But we also have to come back to, well, hold on, what are we free from here? We're free from the garbage that is still tying us to this world that, we don't want to dwell in that, because Christ has freed us, but like, we don't want to forget the place that we've come from, Even in the Old Testament, like half of Moses talking is like, hey guys, remember when you were in Egypt? It's like, remember when you were slaves? Remember how God brought you out? It's like, not because he's trying to make them feel bad. It's like, remember where you came from so you can enjoy where you are right now. And there's something about, it's not like the medium is evil, but it entertains a lot, right? Yeah. It entertains a certain style of performing that with social media, it's a lot more positive. With mass media, it tends towards negativity. And I don't know, it's interesting what implications that has on the macro level.